This is breaking news from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, sponsored by Michael Gaughan's South Point Hotel, Casino, and Spa.
A bit more than 4,000 additional ballots that we will be working to process. Of the ballots that we do still have out there that are still in process, we do have quite a few suspended ballots. We probably have about 200 to 300 suspended ballots. What those are individuals who either requested counter ballots or had made some change to their voter record and received 2 ballots. And so those individuals voted with the ballot that they received first, not the ballot that they received second. So until election day, we cannot, or after election day, excuse me, we cannot begin to unsuspend those ballots. We have to make sure that they don't vote the second ballot that they received in that system. So we do have a couple hundred of those ballots that we'll be working through today, ensuring that those voters did not vote on any other ballot that may have been sent to them. We do have a large number of duplicated ballots that we still will be working on processing. So duplicated ballots include both e-ballots, so that's our Nevada E's, or our FPCA for our military and overseas citizens. Those have to be duplicated onto paper ballots so that they can be processed. It does also include spoiled ballots. So spoiled ballots include any ballot that is ripped, torn, has any sort of a spill on it that would hinder the ability for the machine to go ahead and process those ballots. We received a very large number of ballots with colored ink. Lots of purple and green ink ballots. The machines can't read those. Lots of pencil filled out ballots. Machines cannot read those. So we do have probably about 300 to 400 spoiled ballots, that we're still working on duplicating, and we'll be counting those all at the very end. We do also have those ballots that are pending cure. So the ballots that were either a missig or no sig from the voters. So those are still moving. People are getting us that information, and a lot of those are being cured, but we do still have a little over 1,000 of those coming through. And we have several batches that were too small to move forward. So when we're looking at processing ballots, we don't want a batch that's over 50 ballots, but we don't want any batches that are under 25 ballots. We wait until we have enough ballots for each of those precincts to be able to process those. And we have 19 batches in total that are pending adjudication. So in going through the batches that were ran ahead of last night, we had 19 batches that had ballots, that we need to pull and review to determine if the voter signed the ballot or if they're scribbles, to determine if those ballots need to be rejected or if those ballots can be cast. So those 19 batches are holding up anywhere between 25 and 50 ballots each. So we'll be working to clear those 19 batches today to get the rest of those ballots cast and moved forward. We will be doing an update of results this evening. It will be a fairly small number of updates, really, and looking at what we have left to process. We have 63 bins as of right now that are pending signature cure. So that is the bulk. That is the bins from delivered from the vote centers last night and from the post office today. We have 36 bins that are pending batch or cut. Again, that's us determining if they're large enough to move forward to actually go through to extraction. And right now we only have 4 bins that are pending extraction, meaning we only have 4 bins right now of ballots that actually can move forward to extraction, to be imprinted, to be tallied. So we will be giving an update of results at the end of the day today, but please understand that those numbered results are going to be fairly minimal. Should see some better increases or changes in those results with updates tomorrow, as we're able to make a larger dent on those batches that are pending signature verification and get those batches moving forward. So hoping to see some better results or representation of results with tomorrow's update on our website tomorrow. With that, I will open it up for any questions.
What's
We'll start with the room and then go online.
What's the timeline with this massive number of mail ballots? How long do you think it's going to take you to get all these counted?
We will work to get them all counted. I think with everything that we had from the vote center last night, we were thinking through tomorrow into maybe Friday morning. With what we received from the post office today, we're looking probably through end of the day Friday. And we'll have to see what we receive from the post office through this week, appreciating that we were able to receive ballots through Saturday. So what that volume will take for us to count, or what that volume growth continues to look like to know when we'll have all of those counted, we'll have to wait and see.
You mentioned this is a greater number of mail ballots than you had anticipated. Moving forward, will that change how you run things? Do we need to add more people, more technology?
I think there's potential that we will need to potentially add more people. And maybe, I think we'll have to look at, we've had those questions about how do we accommodate resources, right? What is the preference of voters? And I think between the primary and now this election, we are seeing that there is a really strong preference for mail ballots. And so I do think we're going to have to continue to add more resources to support the processing of mail ballots for voters so that we're able to process those more expeditiously, both for voters and for residents to have those results, but also for our staff, because we need to make sure that they're able to get through those in a timely manner and also be able to rest. Any other?
Is there anything more about the, do you know anything more about the one incident you had out at Bartlett?
I know law enforcement's looking into it. That's all I know.
That be, will there be an investigator? Will the investigation stay with the local officials, or is that the kind of thing that goes to the Secretary of State?
So I know that we advised the Secretary of State's office about the incident. Right now, our communication has been with the Sheriff's office. I think what that investigation finds out will determine where that ultimately lands.
What's your advice to voters if they're concerned, if their ballot needs curing, or if there are any issues? Where can they go to find that out?
So I think one of the best things to do is to go to our website, washoecounty.gov/voters. They can go to check my ballot status. So that will show if you sent in a mail ballot, that'll show if we received it. If your ballot has been challenged, it'll show that your ballot has been challenged. Really important to note for those people who did receive 2 ballots, we did get a lot of calls from people saying, I dropped off my ballot, you guys don't have it. When we pulled up their system, pulled them up in the system, realized most of them had received counter ballots, appreciating that that meant that a lot of them had sent in that original ballot they received, not their counter ballot. Was able to confirm with them, yes, I have it, but we're not able to check those in. So for a lot of those folks, they'll be able to start seeing that reflected. But for the challenges, they'll be able to see that in there now. Again, we'll be sending correspondence. We pull those reports twice a day. We're sending those out twice a day to make sure residents can get those as fast as possible. We are losing a day of mail. Friday is a federal holiday. So, we lose a day of being able to get those letters out to voters. And unfortunately, voters lose a day of being able to get those back to us. And so that does make it harder in making sure that we're able to do that in the most timely of processes. So we do really encourage people to go to our website. If it does say challenge, they can call our office. They can come to our office, whatever is most convenient for them. We can cure it over the phone. If they have concerns about that, we've gotten a lot of people that come in saying there's absolutely no way my signature didn't match. Oftentimes what we find is that they signed somebody else's envelope in their household. And that oftentimes is what that missig is, or people who genuinely forgot to sign it, and we're having to bring out the envelope and show them, here's the one that we got, for them to go, oh, that's so-and-so in my household, or, oh, you're right, I didn't sign it. So people can do either of those 2 things. We do also have some other options for voters, so they definitely can reach out to our office. There are some options for a application. There's a QR code actually listed on the Secretary of State's website. So that's a great resource for all Nevadans. Secretary of State's office has information for all 17 counties for all voters to be able to go see some of the applications that voters can go ahead and cure their ballots as well.
And the last day to cure is
Monday, the 14th by 5 p.m. So also important to note that our office will be open over the weekend. So we are open Saturday and Sunday, 8 to 5, for voters to be able to either call or come in and cure their ballots as well. So they don't have to wait. We'll be open on Friday for Veterans Day. We'll be open Saturday and Sunday. So important for voters to know as well, that if they get something on Thursday, that they don't think they have to wait until Monday. We will be open from now until Monday, the 14th at 5 p.m. To be able to help voters get those ballots cured.
You have updated turnout numbers, just an estimate. I know obviously nothing is planned.
On our website.
Okay. Oh, look.
I apologize.
No, that's fine.
Again, this, sorry, go ahead.
People that need to, cure their ballots, the only contact is by mail then, from you.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So we send out correspondence with the 4 different options of how they can cure their ballots.
But they can check on their own.
But they can also check on our website and do that proactively. So we do encourage people, if they voted by mail, to check on the website, probably 2 days after we've received it, to make sure that we've actually been able to get through all of the signature verifications. Most of them were able to do the next day, but with the volume that we got last night, it's going to take probably 2 days to get through all of those. So checking them in 2 days, it will show if that was challenged. And then they can call us rather than having to wait for that information from us.
You got that email saying that your ballot has been accepted, for processing. I forget what it said. Are you okay?
No, so that message is from the Secretary of State's office under their contract with Ballot Tracks. If you signed up for Ballot Tracks, so that is through the Secretary of State's office, that's not through Washoe County, but if you signed up through Ballot Tracks, once your ballot is challenged, you should be getting notification from them that your ballot has been challenged and to contact your county representatives.
Right now, you haven't flagged yet from the 18,000 mail ballots that came in last, but you're processing now. You've not flagged any of those yet, of whether or not your other issues.
So they're being reviewed now. We have not pulled the reports to be able to update that on our website. We'll be doing that once here shortly, and we'll be doing it again at the end of the day. The reports won't be posted until the end of the day, but we will be doing an update so that voters can review it on the website themselves.
We have a couple questions.
No, when should we expect the new numbers?
It'll be later this evening,
After 5, you think?
probably after 5.
What's the total number of votes that you have in hand that are not counted?
So I can't give you a hard number. I can tell you number of bins we have in process, but the ballots that fit in those bins can vary. The bins hold between 350 to 400 ballots. I have about 95 bins of ballots that are in process and that not including the ballots that need to be duplicated or the ballots that are suspended. So if I add suspended ballots, that's probably 95 bins. And duplicated again, I probably have another 200 or 300 there. So that's a rough estimate. Again, the number of ballots that fit in each of those bins varies. And we don't track the number of ballots in each stage. We track where they are in the process based on tags that are placed on those bins, but the number of ballots in each of those bins we do not track. So I can't give specific numbers of how many are still being processed. But again, those are the different stages that we still have ballots being processed. So provisional ballots are totally separate. I do not have a provisional ballot count.
It looks like. And that's a testament, I think, to the American people. While we don't know all.
I have an address right now.
Somebody had their phone on. Sorry, what was the?
You know how many provisional ballots?
I don't. So we won't get those numbers from the Secretary of State until after Saturday because we're able to receive ballots through Saturday. We will need to wait until then to confirm that voters haven't voted in any other county or anywhere else before we're able to get the green light from the Secretary of State to begin processing any of those provisional ballots.
Do you have any indication of whether this is the situation that they're dealing with in other counties too? Like, is Clark County dealing with the same kind of backlog in mail ballots?
I don't know. We do check in with each other across the county from time to time, but we're all kind of in the middle of running our elections. And so where everybody else is at exactly, I honestly can't speak to.
I mean, what is it like for you having to make this adjustment, which is, it's a huge change from the old way?
You know, I think we prepare as best we can. We were really optimistic yesterday that we were able to get everything that was ready to be processed. We knew that today was going to be a busy day. We knew that this week was going to be a busy week. We received 10,000 ballots on election night in the primary. So not that we weren't expecting a large number of ballots still coming in. Seeing 2 full shelves of ballots though is a little bit more than I think we expected. And I think a little bit harder for us now in the primary, because we weren't able to clear the shelves ahead of the election day. We had things that were still progressing. And so I think it was a little bit easier maybe for other people that we were able to give updates throughout the next couple of days because we had things that were in process. Right now, we're really at the beginning now because we have processed everything that was out there up through really yesterday that could be processed, minus those really small odds and end ballots. So just appreciating that now the ballots will still be being processed, just results will be a little bit slower trickling out now for any of those updates. You know, we've talked about this a few times. It takes about 8 hours of processing time for each of those bins of ballots. And that's just processing time. So that's not taking it from one area to the next, or any of the software downloads that have to happen to get it from check-in to signature verification, or after signature verification to second sort. So it really, mail ballots are a very time-intensive process for those from time that we receive them until time they are counted. So we will be working through to make sure that we get them all processed and counted. Appreciating that we are on a deadline to get these results out, and people want the information, and we want to make sure that we're getting it, but we also want to make sure that we're doing it right. And so that is our higher priority of making sure that we're doing it right, more so than that we're doing it quickly.
Any input from the DOJ on their observations, or
No.
do you expect to get it?
Not necessarily, no.
Okay.
So, real quick, we've been talking about just the length of time it takes. We're in an age now where everybody wants the information now.
Mhm.
Now, past couple rounds, it's been torture. People trying to figure out, is there a way to speed this up? I understand why it's slow, why it's slower, but is there a way to speed it up? When we're the last states in the nation to get results, and there's got to be other states that do it. That there's got to be a way to speed this up, because I get it, you're just one county in a big state, but at the same time, there's got to be a way to speed this process.
Yes and no. There are some technology pieces that can make the process go a little bit faster. I think there's 2 pieces to that. One is definitely budget. Those pieces of equipment that can help expedite the process are not cheap. So there's a huge cost that's associated with doing some of that. The automated signature verification can make it go a little bit quicker. But if you look at Clark, there's still quite a bit of kickout that still requires the manual signature verification. So is that able to speed up a little bit of time on the front end? A little bit of time on the front end. But there's still some of those pieces and processes that still have to happen no matter what. So I think part of it is also our laws versus some of the other state laws. It's that time period for us to continue to accept ballots. Some of it is the time frame for us to be able to cure ballots, right? Those 6 days after the election make it so that no matter what, my results have to be preliminary for at least 7 days after the election, no matter what, because there's no way for me to know. I may not receive many ballots on day 1, 2, and 3, but I could receive quite a few ballots on day 4. right? I may not get a lot of signature cures on days 1, 2, 3, 4, but get a lot of signature cures on days 5 and 6. So having to meet those deadlines and appreciating that people have up to that time period to make those changes for us to count those ballots is something that we have to accommodate because that is the law. So as statute sits, our results have to be preliminary, and we really have to highlight that the nature of that based on those timelines in law.
And is it just people need to get kind of used to the new system where before you'd have updates, you'd have a percentage total of how many percentages in, we're just, I think you think people are so used to that?
Yeah.
They have to look at election days different now.
Yeah, I think right before you had the small trickling of absentee ballots and everyone voted in person, right? The upload of the USB sticks is fairly quick and easy to upload and to give you those results. And when mail ballots was a small number, those still coming in and being processed didn't have large impacts on election results. But when I receive, 18,000 plus ballots and votes on election night that are going to take 2 days to process, and if I receive 4,000 the following day, right, we're looking at 22,000 votes that I still have to count. That's going to make a difference on a lot of races. And that's countywide, right? We don't know where those votes are yet. We don't know what precincts they are. We don't know what races those could impact. So with mail ballots, even if you shorten the time frame, right, I would still have had to receive at least these ballots for those 22-ish thousand ballots to still have to be counted. That's going to take a few days for us to go ahead and process and count those ballots, even with better technology, even with all those price tags and process changes. You're still looking at a few days after the election, no matter what.
What's your just overall quick message to the public as we wait for all this to happen?
Honestly, our message to the public is that we are working on it. Please be patient. It does take time. We want to make sure, like I said, that we're doing it right. We don't want to do it fast. We want to do it right. It is extremely important that we are transparent in how we're doing it. Every ballot needs to be treated the same. So we can't expedite the process or change the process to make it faster now than the ballots that we received on the first day as ballots started coming in. So we have a process to process for every ballot that is received to make sure that all the due diligence is done, that it is that voter who sent it in, that those are properly grouped together to give proper vote credit to those precincts for those races, that those ballots can be processed, that they're not damaged, that they will be read by the machines. All of those things really need to happen so that the results can be accurate, so that that information can be correct. So just asking for people to be patient, understanding that we did a lot of work to have as much information as available last night as possible, which was great, except for it does mean that today will be a little bit slower in getting results, but know that tomorrow we should have much more processed, better information or higher number of turnout change that we'll be able to report tomorrow. So we'll have more information tomorrow and definitely more on Friday.
Questions in the chat, so I'll get a little closer so people can hear me. We've heard from people saying that when they check the website for their ballot status, it says they are not an eligible voter and that the registrar's office says there's been a glitch in the system. Was this a problem and has it been fixed?
So we are aware of an issue. It's not our system saying they are ineligible. We do have some voters' information on the Secretary of State's office that is showing them as canceled in the Secretary of State's office. They are not showing as canceled in our system. So we are working with the Secretary of State's office and understanding what has happened with the upload of our information to the Secretary of State's office. Important to note that it is our information that is uploaded to the Secretary of State's office. So we are working with them to determine what happened in that upload that it is showing as ineligible on their end. But yes, they are eligible voters. We're showing them as active on our end. So something that we are working with the Secretary of State's office to clarify.
Our understanding is that in 2020 statewide, about 15% of the vote came in after Election Day. Was that similar in Washoe County? Does it generally steadily decline each day or increase or spike at the end, or what's your anticipation?
So again, I think for us, 2020 is a hard year for us to gauge against because of COVID and the newness of mail ballots. I think this is really the first year that we're looking at what those trends of mail ballots are. So we're not projecting or expecting anything as a result of 2020. We received very few ballots after Election Day in the primary. We received a few bins, excuse me, from the post office the day after, and then those numbers steadily declined. We really don't know what that's going to be for this election. We were not expecting 11 trays today. I was not expecting 11 trays today. We're open to whatever that is that's coming in from the post office tomorrow and for the next few days. So whether that number goes up or goes down, we will have to wait and see, where those ballots are coming from, and how quickly those are processed. We do know that the post office is working really diligently to get those to us as fast as possible, making sure that all those ballots that were received were date stamped, so that we can make sure that those that were mailed on the 8th are able to be reflected as such, so that we are able to determine the ballots that can be processed versus those that may have been mailed after the 8th, to make sure that we're voting, or that we're counting the votes that we should be.
When you say there are about, oh, actually, I'm sorry, I'm gonna back up. The 400 bins of ballots, that are they in addition to the 18,500 ballots received yesterday?
400 bins.
400 bins of ballots, are they in addition to the 18,000?
I don't think I said 400 bins. Did I say
They're
400?
referring to the 11 trays with 400 of each.
Oh, okay. I was like, wait a second. I didn't say 400 bins. I know my mental math isn't that bad. Sorry, what was the question? I got stuck on the 400.
11 bins. Is that in addition to the 18,000?
Yes. So the 11 bins are those that we picked up from the post office this morning. So that is in addition to the 18,000, almost 500 ballots that we picked up yesterday.
Okay, I'm gonna throw some more math at you.
Oh God.
When you say there are about 95 bins still to process,
Mm-hmm.
and they hold on the low end about 350 ballots, that's just over 33,000 ballots. Does that mean there are still 33,000 ballots on hand that have not been counted?
I'm going to stick with my bin number, because the number of ballots in each of those bins can vary. That's why I can't give you number of ballots. Some of those bins will be full. Some of those bins may only be half full. So I can give you number of bins that I have being processed. I cannot give you number of ballots. That would require us to actually go through every single bin and hand count them. So I cannot give you number of ballots. I can give you number of bins that are being processed in the different steps of the process.
And that's 95.
Yes.
So this next question is exactly that. You said 95 bins in the process of being counted.
Mm-hmm.
You said another 200 to 300 bins are in what stage?
So 200 to 300 ballots.
Oh.
So those are duplicated ballots, because they are no longer in the envelopes. They don't count the same in the bin. So those are spoiled ballots. So again, those are ballots where they were filled out with not blue or black ink, or ballots that were damaged in some way. So ripped, torn, water damage, spilled some sort of a substance on it that would have caused the ballot to not be read by the tabulator.
And when you say there's 95 bins to process and it takes 8 hours to process a bin, that's 31 days. What portion of those bins don't need the full 8 hours?
So every bin needs the full 8 hours. That's 8 hours for each step in the process for that bin. We have more than, that's per bin, right? So I have more than one person in our office doing all of these things. So there are certain steps where you have a person doing it, and there are certain steps where you have multiple people doing it. And so that 8.5 hours is per bin, not necessarily per person. And so that is the average time for those bins, but we will be able to get every single one of those bins processed well before the canvass of the vote, to be able to properly report and record every single one of those votes that should be counted.
Any other questions in here? None in the chat? Anybody who wants to speak up online?
Yeah, I had a couple questions. My name's Tabitha Mueller with the Nevada Independent. I know that you said as of Sunday, mail-in ballots accounted for 60% of the turnout, with in-person voting making up the remaining 40%. Do we have any updates on that in terms of those percentages right off the top of your head? If not, no worries.
I do not.
Okay. The next question is, we were looking at it and it looks like the registrar had at least 57,000 ballots in-house that still need to be counted. Would that include the mail-in ballots that you've been discussing? Or is that in addition to those mail-in ballots, if that makes sense?
So that would be the ballots that I'm discussing.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Hi, this is Audrey Mayer from News 4. I'm just wondering, is there anything you will for sure do different next time in terms of maybe, getting more intake machines or getting more poll workers, or are you still waiting to see what you could or would do differently next time?
So there's a few things that we're looking at. I think there's some changes that we will be looking to make, looking at specific areas that we saw impacts. So, UNR, for a really simple example, definitely needs more intake specialists. They had a lot of same-day registrations and same-day registration updates. That takes a lot more time to get people processed and through the line to be able to vote than a normal a vote center where people are already registered and they're checking in and simply voting, which caused long lines at that vote center due to those updates. So that's one place that we definitely know we will be looking at adding more intake specialists to be able to better accommodate some of those things. So there are little tweaks that we know we will be making, but definitely we have some folks that we always get some feedback and responses from our poll workers. So before we get too far ahead of ourselves with the things that we took away from the election, it's always really important to get takeaway from other people as well, in case there's things that we are not considering or things that weren't as apparent to us. So we'll be making sure that we are touching base with our poll workers to see what some of those other changes are, so that we can make sure that we are accommodating the voters, the poll workers, and not just ourselves, and what may make our lives a little bit easier, and things that definitely showed a little bit more prominently for us. So there are some takeaways for us, but we'll be reaching out a little bit broader to make sure that we're able to encompass as much of that feedback as possible of what other changes we may need to make going into 24.
And you said budget was a constraint as well. Can you give us an idea of how much it would cost to add more machines or add more workers? Do you have any general numbers you could share with us?
No, because I think right now would really depend on what types of machines we'd be looking at adding, and really we have had some takeaways of where we're seeing strong expansion. We saw a true explosion of the EASE program. So in the last legislative session, they expanded the Nevada EASE program to also accommodate disabled voters, which was a great program. We were really happy to see it happen. But that went from about 30 voters to several thousand applications. And so that's one place that we know we're going to need to look at potentially having more staff to be able to review those applications to get back to those voters in a more expedited manner, so that we can determine eligibility, so people can know whether they are in fact eligible for the program and get them processed, or let voters know that they are not eligible for that program. So there's several things that we really have to weigh and looking at that, and then really be bringing that to the county and the budget team as we start creating priorities of where we know there's changes that we will need to make in the department and what those budget costs would be, and where we look at things that we would maybe like to have that may need to take a lower priority. So those are things that we're still looking at.
And this is Ben with News 4. Real quick, it looks like there's about 39,000 or so mail ballots that were received up until Election Day that have not been included in the 40,000 that are listed on the dashboard right now. When can we expect all the mail ballots received up until Election Day to be included? Because you said tonight's update is going to be fairly minimal tonight, right? So does that mean that we won't have that whole chunk included in tonight's results?
So again, a lot of those are going to be some of our spoiled ballots. Some of those are going to be those batches that are in adjudication. So it depends on where those are. So if it's the ones that are in adjudication, those will be able to be processed and uploaded tonight. If those are the spoiled ballots, then that'll take longer for those to be processed and updated, because we'll run all of our duplicated ballots at the end of the election, because we still have to group those by precinct. So, right, this is the very multi-layered part of elections, that it would be nice if there was just this very simple flow chart of how ballots were processed, but there's a lot of offshoots of where ballots can be. So for ballots, like I said, that either aren't pending cure or spoiled, or in those batches that need adjudication or were simply too small to move forward, that's what has been posted. As we continue processing, once those batches become large enough to move forward, we'll move them forward. We'll be working on the adjudicated batches today, but if they were spoiled and need to be duplicated, those will not be posted really until much closer till we complete the processing of all of our ballots.
Do you have a rough estimate? Do you have a rough estimate of how many more will be added to the results dashboard when you guys update tonight?
Honestly, it'll depend on how many we can get through. Staff is working to make sure that we can get as many of those that have been signature verified through the process. So we've spent the morning in getting those put together in batches to get those organized, to determine those that can move forward so we can get them through extraction to imprint to tally. So we'll be working on that today. What that number is, I honestly can't give you. Like I said, when I came in here, we had 4 trays that were pending extraction. I think I had 5 or 6 that were ready to be cut to go to extraction. So you're looking at maybe 10 bins there. So that's, again, right, that 300 to 400 ballots per tray, plus those pending adjudication. If we can get to all of those tonight, we'll get to all of those tonight for those to be uploaded. But whether we're going to be able to get to all those tonight or not, I don't know.
We are running a little long, so
This is
I'll
one
open
quick
it up for
question.
one last question, if anybody has one, and then we're going to wrap up with what's next.
This is Colton Lockett from the Review Journal down in Las Vegas. Can you hear me all right?
Yep.
Awesome. In terms of frequency of updates, are you going to be updating the election dashboard? How often are you going to be updating that election dashboard? And is there going to be regular intervals that we'll see those updates?
So we update those daily. We update those whenever we're completed for the evening. So with the volume of ballots that we're still getting in, we'll be working later, probably into the night than we had originally anticipated. And so I honestly can't tell you exactly when we'll be completing in the evenings right now, because that volume is a little bit more than we had originally anticipated, to be able to say that we'll be done at 6 or 7 o'clock at night, to be able to have those posted, so that we can get those processed. So it will be posted, it will be updated every night, but I cannot give a definitive time at this point. I want to make sure that we're able to get as much processed through the day so that those results are as accurate as possible when we are able to post those.
Quick question, really quick. Do you, if someone has already voted in Washoe County in previous years, do they still need a Nevada ID to vote in person?
So when you're voting in person and you're signing the roster sheet, if your signature does not match, which is the first way that we're able to verify that you are in fact the voter, you have 2 options to be able to then verify that you are the voter if your signature does not match. Very similar to the mail ballots. One of them is showing your ID, and the other is answering some security questions that the voter would know that other people would not. And so voters may be asked for their ID if their signatures do not match, or if there are updates to their voter registration and they're doing a same-day voter registration update. Then they will be required to have a Nevada ID for those same-day registration updates during early voting. And again, if they're not able to verify the signature, then they'll be asked for ID, or may be asked for ID or asked for security questions. to be able to verify that the voter is in fact the voter.
Okay, it's 1:41, so we will call it good. We will update with results and turnout. You said it's by the end of the day. Correct? Yep.
You've been watching breaking news from the Las Vegas Review-Journal, sponsored by Michael Gaughan's South Point Hotel, Casino, and Spa.